Welcome to the 4321. Today we're going to be getting into Genesis chapter 17. This chapter opens when Abram is 99 years old and God appears to him and he says that he's going to make a covenant between himself and between Abram. And this covenant begins with Abram is going to be made the father of a multitude of nations. And not only that, God's going to change his name because of this multitude of nations to Abraham. And he says that he's going to make him into nations and kings are going to come from him. And he's going to establish his covenant with him, and not only with Abraham, but with his offspring. He's going to continue that covenant with those generations. It's an everlasting covenant, he says in verse 7. And then he says the sign of this covenant is going to be circumcision, and he goes through the process of that circumcision. And then beginning in verse 15, there's an important promise that's made to Abraham and to Sarai, whose name is changed to Sarah. God says that he's going to bless Sarah, and he's going to give a son to Abraham through Sarah. And beginning in verse 17, it says, Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said to himself, Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. God said, No, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. Guys, what do you all see here?
I want to take an application from verse 3. God appeared to Abram, he spoke to Abram, and then what did Abram do? He fell on his face. I think there's some implications that we can take from that action, and it seems to me any character or any person the Bible speaks about who stops for just a moment and considers the majesty of God, the typical response is falling down before him. Do you think Isaiah 6, when Isaiah the prophet's called, or John the apostle in Revelation chapter 1? And we see Abram, this father of faith, do the same. But it's more than just considering the majesty of God. It's also considering that this great God is mindful of Abram and making promises to him. And I think that's a great application to think about. We think about the words of the psalmist, Oh, that you're mindful of man and you care for the Son of Man. I think it just impresses upon us the need to stop sometimes and think about God. Not so busy about religion, which is important to please Him, but to just stop and think about God and the promises that He's made to us, because it is only then, I think, we can properly begin to see ourselves.
Amen. I want to look at verse 15. I find verse 15 incredibly encouraging. Sarai's name becomes Sarah, but I want you to notice verse 16. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her. 2 times God says, I will bless her. I think when you look at the previous chapter, it was Sarah's idea that they do the whole Hagar thing. I mean, she threw a wrench in the whole process that complicated things incredibly. And I wonder, though she blamed Abraham at first, I wonder if she felt some guilt over the choice that she had made and assumed some responsibility. And I think it's just incredibly encouraging to see God still, despite what she did, say, I will bless her. And I need that lesson. I think you need that lesson as well in your life. There are times that we complicate our life. We make poor decisions, boneheaded decisions, that just throw a wrench in how we view our life as going. And we need to know that God still wants to bless us. And He still can bless us if we'll submit to Him. And I hope that helps you through the weekend.
Amen. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope you'll join us again next week as we get into Genesis chapter 18. We hope you all have a blessed weekend and have a great day.